This sitting is resumed. Honourable Member for St. Joseph.
Mr. Speaker, as small as these amendments may seem, I believe that today represents a seminal moment in the history of this Parliament, and it demonstrates clearly our commitment to casting off some of those things that could be regarded as shackles. And perhaps also important is the fact that we have opened a new parliamentary term and set the tone by demonstrating clearly to the country that we are prepared perhaps to go where other parliaments have not gone before. As the Prime Minister has talked about the challenges that will face our country in the years ahead, it is clear to me and certainly to the other members of the front bench that this is a time for visionary leadership. And today, I think, sets the tone and makes it clear to the country that we represent that visionary leadership and perhaps the best chance that Barbados has of making it through the difficult waters ahead. The question of when and how we deal with the matters of the new constitution will be answered very shortly. I know that the public is, in many quarters, anxious to know how we're going to proceed. The new constitution has in fact been drafted years ago. The current Prime Minister had responsibility for producing that draft when she last sat in the chair of Attorney General. But nothing was done with it on that occasion, and perhaps nothing was done because this Parliament, as it was then constituted, smarted at the time from challenges about republicanism and so on. It's interesting to know that we too were challenged on the issue of republicanism, and we met those challenges head on. We took the difficult decisions that we had to take, and here we are. Nobody feels that Barbados is a worse off country. Nobody feels that our governance has suffered. In fact, I note with interest that the opposition's only contribution to the issue of republicanism in their manifesto was that we should change the name from Barbados to the Republic of Barbados. After all, the brouhaha and the moaning and the wailing that we were headed to hell in a handbasket, that was their contribution to the whole exercise. I make that point then to say that perhaps as we approach difficult issues, we should be stronger and more confident in our ability and in our capacity to make the best decisions for our country. So we have to deal with the matter of a new constitution for Barbados. The Prime Minister has charged me as Senior Minister responsibility for governance with putting those arrangements in place. And I anticipate that certainly within the next 4 weeks or so, we ought to be able to come to the country and say with precision who will constitute the review commission, and we've already begun to consider the individuals who we think are sound enough intellectually and who have the kind of experience and gravitas that we would want. So that exercise has begun. The constitution that the Prime Minister was responsible for, the new constitution that she was responsible for drafting not long ago, I don't want to say decades ago for fear of being chastised for aging her. Obviously, there are changes that will have to be made and that have been made to that. So, for example, that constitution, while it considered the issue of the president that constitution can now draw into its paragraphs and clauses what we have recently passed as the parliamentary arrangements in relation to the president. It will obviously include some of what we've done today. So I expect, and again urge and encourage all Barbadians to seize the opportunity to participate in crafting a constitution that will perhaps carry Barbados forward for the next 5 decades. Mindful always that even as a new constitution, it will not be perfect, but it will be as perfect as we can make it. It will not be frozen in time, but that too will be a living document, and that future parliaments should never, ever, ever be too cowardly, be too diffident about changing it when the circumstances of the moment require. Let me thank members of this chamber for supporting this bill in the wholehearted way in which they've supported it. And with that, so I beg again to ask that this bill be read a second time.
Beg second.
Question is that the aforementioned bill be read a second time. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that you do now leave the chair and that this House resolve itself into committee for further consideration of this bill.
The question is that the Speaker do now leave the chair and the House resolve itself into committee for further consideration of this bill. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it.
This House is now in committee.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that Clause 1 stand part.
The question is, Clause 1 stands part. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no.
You gotta wait, you know.
Clause 2?
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that Clause 2 stand part.
Question is, Clause 2 stand part. All honourable members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All the honourable members against say no. I think the ayes have it.
Clause 3?
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that Clause 3 stand part.
Question is that Clause 3 stands part. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Thinks the ayes have it.
Clause 4?
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that Clause 4 stand part.
The question is that Clause 4 stand part. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those honourable members against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that you do now report to His Honour the Speaker the passing of one bill in committee.
The question is that I report to the Speaker passing of one bill. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. Think the ayes have it.
The chairman of committees is reporting the passing of one bill in committee.
Mr.
Honourable St. Joseph.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this bill be read a third time.
The question is that the aforementioned bill be read a third time. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this bill do now pass and be cited as the Constitution Amendment Bill 2020, Amendment Act 2022. 2022.
Mr. Speaker, I'll call the names online first. Would you please put, please put the question again?
The question is that the bill do not pass. This requires a constitutional, because it's constitutional, it requires a two-thirds majority in this chamber.
Calling those on. Ms. Motley,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Mr. Ford,
Aye.
Mr. Sutherland, Ms. Bradshaw,
Aye.
Mr. Marshall,
Aye.
Mr. Weir,
Aye.
Mr. Abrams, Mr. Rowe,
Aye.
Mr. Gibbs,
Aye.
Ms. Ford,
Aye.
Dr. Brown, Mr. Goodenagel, Mr. Humphrey, Ms. Cadell,
Aye.
Ms. Husbands, Mr. Griffith,
Aye.
Mr. Springer,
Aye.
Mr. Strawn, Mr. Prescott, Mr. Hinkson, Mr. Lane, Ms. Moore,
Aye.
Ms. McCanny, Mr. Ishmael,
Aye.
Mr. Phillips.
Aye.
Mr. Sutherland,
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Speaker, 26 honorable members voted aye, there were no noes, there were no abstentions.
But I was on call.
He did.
I wasn't invited to vote.
How did you vote, sir? Mrs. Simmons,
Aye.
The vote having reached the threshold as is required by the Constitution, this bill now stands passed.
Mrs. Speaker, I'd like to revert to cabinet notices. government notices.
Honourable Leader, Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the Barbados Metrology Bill 2022 and the Road Traffic Amendment Bill 2022, as well as the Water Reuse Bill 2022. And I wish to withdraw the previous Water Reuse Bill, Barbados Metrology Bill, and the Road Traffic Amendment Bill.
First reading of bills.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the first reading of the Barbados Metrology Bill, the Road Traffic Amendment Bill, and the Water Reuse Bill, all of 2022.
The question,
Beg to second that.
the question is that the aforementioned bill be read here first time. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. Honourable Leader, Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With that, we have come to the end of today's sitting. I therefore, again, want to just echo the sentiments of all and thank all honourable members who have spoken, and again to welcome all new members to the chamber and those who have come back again for another time. And to say that we will beg to move the adjournment of the House until next week, the 15th of February.
Beg to second that.
I remember you didn't mention the time.
At 10 a.m., sir.
The question is that this honourable chamber stands adjourned until Tuesday, the 15th day of February 2022 at 10 a.m. in the forenoon. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. This honourable chamber stands adjourned until the 15th day of February 2022 at 10 a.m. in the forenoon.